Let's turn our attention to politics now, and the ANC's National Executive Committee will deliberate extensively on the 30% tariffs imposed on South African goods by the United States of America. ANC Secretary-General Fikile Mbalula says the 4-day meeting will discuss the state of the economy and the impact of the tariffs. Let's go live now to our Samkele Masgo, who is on standby and joins us now from Ekurhuleni. Good afternoon, Samkele. So a packed agenda for the ANC's National Executive Committee. The visit by President Ramaphosa to the United States on the agenda, the tariffs, as well as the revelations and allegations made by Lieutenant General Fikile, all of that in the mix. Tell me how it's taking shape, the discussion there.
Indeed, Tulas, the ANC's National Executive Committee is looking extensively into the country's economic woes, particularly with those tariffs imposed by the United States of America. There was a briefing earlier on by the ANC's Dr. Khosienzo Oramohupa, who is in charge of electricity within the country, looking at issues of the energy availability factor, looking at issues being discussed in the subcommittee of economics of the African National Congress, particularly on economic transformation. You do know that there have been a number of issues being raised at the fore, with those tariffs being introduced by the United States of America, which effectively looks at goods being exported out of South Africa being taxed at that 30% by the United States of America, which will have a ripple effect and a negative one on South Africa's economy, particularly when it comes to job creation in the agricultural sector, which are some of the products that are being largely imported by the United States of America, your citrus, your fruits in the fruit basket as a whole, and the various wines that are made in South Africa and sent to the international market, particularly to the United States of America. That will have an adverse effect on the agricultural sector, which may see a drop in the job creation within that particular sector in the various quarters of the South African economy. Then secondly, you've got those raw dust minerals, your iron ore, Kumba iron ore. You go to essentially to your platinum, you go to to gold, you go to diamonds that are effectively produced and extracted out of South Africa and sent to international markets. That will also, at this point in time, excluded from that 30% tariffs by the United States of America, because it stands to benefit the economy of the United States of America. But the ANC is essentially saying that there must be beneficiation of these particular minerals in reindustrializing South Africa's economy, beneficiation out of these particular minerals, which will create jobs, as opposed to taking this raw dust to the international markets that is effectively creating jobs in those markets and not for the South African economy, which is some of the issues extensively being pushed by the ANC Youth League, led by Colin Malaji and Ngudle, which was a conference resolution of the Youth League to say that there must be beneficiation. It is a case in point where the Secretary-General of the ANC, Fikile Mbalula, has been speaking extensively about that particular issue, along with President Cyril Ramaphosa, on the issue of beneficiation to us.
And in terms of the issues closer to home, in the sense of more domestic politics, more immediately domestic politics, tell me about the discussions as they will shape up around what Lieutenant General Fikile has alleged in relation to some people who are also members and leaders of the ANC, including at the National Executive Committee level. We saw that picture on social media of at least 2 people that find themselves in a spot of border sitting at that NEC meeting.
Sitting in the naughty corner, if one person may say, Tulasizwe, that Senzo Mkunu and Dr. Nobuhle Nkabane were the 2 naughty kids who has effectively been sent to the naughty corner by their parents when it comes to the allegations leveled against them. Nobuhle Nkabane fired as the Minister of Higher Education and Training. Senzo Mkunu placed on a leave of absence from his role as Minister of Police. Those issues pertaining to what was raised by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi will be ventilated within this meeting. It was highlighted in the political report of the President of the ANC, Cyril Ramaphosa, when he opened the meeting yesterday, speaking on a number of events that have taken place within the country, the passing of the budget, the problems they've faced with the Democratic Alliance over the period of time in passing of this particular budget, and the threats not to vote for particular departmental budgets that the ANC ministers are currently occupy. That would be your human settlements, that would go to your higher education and training, that would go to your presidency, and that would particularly also involve the interstate and security, where Nkumbudzo Nchaveni was also flagged by the Democratic Alliance. But effectively at the end, the DA did vote for those particular budgets. The president saying that despite the DA pushing all these threats yielded to nothing, because they ultimately voted for the passing of those departmental budgets, and as a whole the appropriations bill was also voted upon by the Democratic Alliance. But there is a pushback in the NEC by some members who are saying that the DA is the problem child within the government of national unity. The DA must be dealt with. There will be a report that will be tabled today of the NWC by the Secretary-General, the NWC meaning the National Working Committee that deliberated on these particular issues. And remember that the NEC was postponed on the behest of the NWC about 2 weeks ago to say that the NWC must thoroughly prepare a report for this NEC meeting that will look at the inner workings of the government of national unity, and then ultimately the NEC will formulate a decision and a posture of the African National Congress. Also do remember that leaked audio where the president of the ANC alongside Chipoko Samashatile, the DP, they spoke to the ANC caucus and saying that you don't disturb your opponent whilst it's making a grave mistake. Then ultimately a decision must be made. Remember, as Paul Mashatile said, if they don't vote for the budget, they must be removed immediately. But I am going to be joined to us by Dr. Khosi and so Ramokhupa, ANC NEC member. He'll be speaking within that particular capacity to speak on some of the issues that they deliberated upon in this particular meeting. I am just going to require another 3-4 minutes to engage with him. Dr. Ramokhupa, just the essence of your presentation within the NEC, some of the deliberations taking place when it comes to your particular portfolio and the performance of the economy, coupled with your deployment in government, which is electricity.
Oh, thank you, Samkele. I think there's an admission by the NEC that the economy is underperforming and is undermining the transformation project, and that we do need to do something very aggressive and bold to ensure that we turn the fortunes around, because there's more and more people who are joining the unemployment line. The levels of inequalities continue to grow unabatedly. So it's important that we do something significant. So we accept that the infrastructure is going to be a big part of that. The 1 trillion rands over the MTF that the president has announced, but also the investment by private sector for us to create the conditions that allows for an accelerated investment by private sector, dealing with the permitting and licensing, an environment that allows them to participate, and also fixing local government, because that's where the rubber hits the road. The capacity of a subnational government is going to be important to enable private sector to participate. So in parts of the country where the taps are running dry because municipalities have not invested in that infrastructure, there is no company that will invest in such an area. And we have seen over a period that some of the companies relocating from one municipality to the other, and typically relocating from municipalities that are distressed, that can be better placed, I mean, to benefit from that kind of investment. So there's displacement of this investment. We've also come to accept that corruption has played a big part in undermining our ability to grow the economy, so we need to be a bit more decisive, of course, taking account and acknowledging progress that have been made behind the recommendation of the Zondo Commission. The President did make a public update around the work that we are doing there. And then then there's an issue around the American the tariffs, the 30% tariffs that is levied on South African goods. We have made the point that we must invest in protecting that relationship with our second biggest trading partner, because if we're to lose it, I mean, the economy is likely going to hemorrhage jobs, especially in your auto sector. I'm talking about those whose products are destined for the US, but we know that some of the original equipment manufacturers don't have America as their market, but we know that the agricultural sector will also be significantly affected. So the team has presented a framework, which is an offer that underpins how we think we can reset our relationship with the United States of America. And of course, we are yet to receive a feedback. But Minister Tau, in his official capacity, is reaching out to ensure that we are able to rescue the situation. But we also say, as we make those efforts, parallel to that, we must work on the diversification of the markets for South African goods. I mean, it will be a height of folly that we are going to replace the American markets for if the West situation come to materialize, that we can resolve that by tomorrow. But I think these are twin tracks that must be pursued with vigor, preserving this relationship and also diversifying, if you like, markets, so that we are de-risking ourselves from concentration risk, be it the Chinese, the Americans, the European Unions. You need to broaden the flow of markets so that we have de-risked ourselves from the concentration, and what that concentration could mean in the future if the relationship with our trading partner is experiencing significant strain. So those are the things that have come out to ensure that we are able to address the issues of the economy. But speed is important, execution is important, efficiency of execution is important, fighting corruption is important, and then capacitating the state to be able to discharge these responsibilities and working with the private sector is front center of these interventions.
So the views of Gwede Mantashe, the national chairperson, is finding resonance, particularly when it comes to saying that South Africa's commodities are not the sole priority of the United States of America, and other markets need to be searched upon and penetrated.
Oh yes, absolutely. I think, I mean, if you look at the Chinese market, the significant consumer, but what we want to, the point we are making is that we must beneficiate closer to source. The more there's participation downstream of beneficiation, the greater the quality of work, the kind of skills that are required, and also the returns to the fiscus. The European Union, again, a market, you know that with the movement from the internal combustion engine to different forms of propulsion, EV, the hybrid vehicle, it's going to benefit from some of the minerals that we have here. So it's important that we work on that beneficiation. But beneficiation takes a lot of resources. So you need electricity, you need water in many instances to be able to beneficiate. Your smelters, you mentioned them, the furnaces, you need electricity. That's why we need to address the issues on the supply side so that they are stable, the electricity supply, and also is cost competitive. That's very important. And also to provide relief to households. NEC says the Minister of Electricity and Energy must work on addressing the issues of the affordability of electricity. And of course, we did come out to say there's an intervention that will be announcing on bringing down or capping the rate of increase of electricity, and over time stabilizing it at a level that is affordable, can make our industries competitive, and can provide relief to the poor. Because at the current, rather households, at the current rate of increase is just exponentially eroding the buying power of households, pushing them deeper into poverty. And I think it's something that has not escaped our attention.
In 30 seconds, Dr. Ramokgopa, the issue of beneficiation, where is your key areas of focus? Which sectors?
Well, it's on the issues that are going to support the decarbonization agenda, the issues of the manufacturing of electrolyzers, what goes into the battery technology is something that is going to receive our utmost attention. That's where the immediate possibilities are, because we can see the demand.
Let me put you on the spot. Do you have appetite for the highest office?
Oh no, we are not yet there.
Do you have appetite?
We are not yet there. At the right time, I think the conversations will happen in the ANC. The focus now is to ensure that we get the economy going, and then there's 2026 local government elections.
Okay, so the appetite is there, but just not answering it at this point in time. That is Dr. Hossein Sorabahupa speaking on the immediate economic challenges that the country faces and the interventions they are putting in place. Tulas.
All right, thank you for that. That's Samkele Masgo live for us from Germiston, tracking that meeting of the ANC's highest decision-making body in between conferences. That is the National Executive Committee, the NEC.